Erev Tov. I am grateful to see so many of you here from every corner of the Jewish world. On behalf of Central Synagogue, alongside a host of really remarkable partners, I'm so grateful to welcome you here. We're here tonight to listen to the harrowing stories of those who survived October 7th, the stories of those who lost loved ones, neighbors, friends, and to hear the continued anguish of families whose loved ones are still being held in captivity. But our sacred task tonight is not just to listen, it is to bear witness. For bearing witness demands something of us. It changes us. And when we bear witness to the atrocities of that day, it will become a part of our own Jewish memory, a memory that obligates us to action. So I want you to think of tonight as a spiritual call to arms. Not only to bear witness to the stories, but to commit to act alongside our brothers and sisters in this ongoing struggle. To our Israeli friends, I want to thank you in advance for your courage and your strength to be here today. I know this is not where you wish to be in any sense. I know you'd rather be in Israel, surrounded by your family and your community there, working in the makeshift situation rooms that they've created with you to help bring your loved one home. But you've flown here because, as you said to me last night, you will go to the ends of the earth to help free your child, your loved one, and all the hostages, to tell your story, to insist that we do not forget. So you may not be in Israel, but you are here with Am Yisrael. You are surrounded by your extended mishpacha, by your community. And tonight, this sanctuary will be transformed into your makeshift situation room. And we will commit to finding ways to help you, to remember, to take action. Chazak ve'ematz, be strong and of courage, we are with you. It's my pleasure and privilege to call up Eric Goldstein, who has shown such extraordinary leadership at this time. We are grateful always to partner with UJA Federation.
Thank you, Angela, for all the extraordinary things you are doing to support the community in this incredibly dark time. It's incredible to see so many of you here together on such short notice. And I know there are people here from every Jewish denominational spectrum. Coming together as a united Jewish community has never, ever been more important. I was in Israel on October 7th. It was, as we know, Shabbat and Simchat Torah, typically the most joyous, among the most joyous days in the Hebrew calendar. Tragically, going forward, Simchat Torah will be one of the darkest days of a Jewish calendar and will be the yahrzeit of over 1,400 people who were massacred that day. I was in Israel for much of the last 2 weeks, 36 hours with Governor Hochul, who just spoke at UJA with Rachel. And the stories are unimaginable. We went to Kibbutz Shfayim, which is near Herzliya, where over 400 people from Kfar Aza are now living in temporary housing. And the stories are just indescribably horrible, indescribably, unfathomably horrible. We met with a young father whose wife and 3 children were kidnapped. We met with a mother whose only son was killed defending the kibbutz, who was responsible for the armory. We met with a 13-year-old girl who the day before had buried her best friend, who was burned so badly that it took days to identify her. It's hard to listen to all of these stories. It's impossible to listen to these stories. But we have to. We must. because it's our obligation, all of us, to transmit these stories, to keep telling them, one, until every single hostage is home, but even more broadly, to tell the world the true face of Hamas, which is evil, evil. We're not talking about two-state solution. We're talking about the stated goal of eradicating the Jewish state and the Jewish people. We can't stop telling these stories. There are some bright spots. In Israel, in central Israel, where there are now over 200,000 displaced people from both south and now north, there are people opening up cramped apartments to total strangers and having them move in with them. There were hours and hours for people lining up to donate blood. There are tens of thousands of Israelis who are not really working, who spend the day doing acts of chesed, both big and small, for people in need all over. And our New York community has also been extraordinary. On October 7, within hours of learning of this devastation, we convened for the first time ever on Shabbat, UJA's executive committee, and we took $10 million from our endowment for immediate needs, and they went out the next day. But on top of that, since October 8, this community has raised, given to UJA, over $115 million to support the needs. And we've already sent out, as of this morning, $33 million to over 100 amutot, incredible NGOs serving the south, the north, and now very much the center of Israel. There's so much we don't know. There's enormous unpredictability ahead. We don't know what's going to happen with Hezbollah in the north. We don't know what's going to happen in the West Bank, even in the mixed cities. We do know this. The needs are enormous, both in the immediate, the intermediate, and the long term. And all of us need to commit everything we can and be there for the immediate, the intermediate, and the long term. I'm Yisrael Chai, and thanks again to Angela and Central Synagogue for doing this on such short notice.
Hey, thank you all for being here. I think that in such short notice, it shows the strength and care of this community. My name is Omer Lubaton Granat. I live here in New York, and I'm leading the Hostages and Missing Families Forum here in New York. When the horrible... when it all started, I felt that this is my service, this is what I can do, this is my miluim, and how I take my abilities and my background to help those families, to help those children, to help our brothers and sisters and loved ones that are now held hostage. And as we all know, God moves in a mysterious way. In 5 days after we started the campaign here, I found out that my second cousin and her 3 children, Chen Almo Goldstein, and her 3 children are actually held hostage. We thought they were murdered. Her husband and other child was murdered as well. So it became personal, but it's much bigger than that. I think it's touched every one of us as Israeli, as American, as Jewish people, and as humans. And it's hard to imagine how their house in Kfar Aza, the safe place and this beautiful place, such horrible things had happened. So what we're trying to do here is to raise awareness and keep this story alive in order to bring them home back alive as soon as we can. And we're trying to reach out to the community, and we're trying to reach out to policymakers and do whatever we can. And we hope it won't be a long run, but it might be. And this is a place where we need you. We need you to take part in it, to help us, to join us, to do whatever you can in your community, in your synagogues, in your school, in your house, in front of your congressman or senator, or wherever we can. We all do everything we can to bring them home. I'm glad to see so many people here, and I want to thank Rabbi Angela. To be honest, she gave me a lot of hope and inspiration in such horrible days. And thank you to the Central Synagogue that's hosting us. And I want to present you the families that are here with us: Jonathan and Rachel Goldberg-Paulin, Moshe Levi, and Ruby Khan. Please join us, and thank you for being here.
Good evening. I'm Abigail Pogrobin, and it is good to see all of you. As horrific as this moment is, to be together. I have been given by my rabbi what I consider a sacred task, which is to listen and help us do something now when we're feeling so helpless. I guess I want to start, if I could, with you, Rachel. I heard you say in an interview that you're living in a different universe. Can you just give us a sense of where your life is right now and how much you know about your son, Hirsch?
Well, I think that all we know is probably as much as anyone who's read about all of our stories knows, which is, for us, Hirsch was at the music festival with one of his best friends named Honor, and ultimately they ended up fleeing when this massacre started to happen, and they got to a bomb shelter, a roadside bomb shelter, with, there was a total of 29 of these kids who had run for their lives and were mushed in this bomb shelter. And Hamas came to the doorway and started throwing in hand grenades. Honor was by the doorway, and all the witnesses we spoke to said he had managed to keep picking them up and throwing them out. He did that with 8 of them, but 3 of them did get in and detonate. And then they came in with an RPG and with machine guns and were just firing at these, barefoot, crunchy granola, hippie kids who were out for camping. Most of them died right away, and some of them were trapped under the dead bodies. And so from those witnesses, we heard that Hamas came in, and there were 3 young men sitting against a wall who were all hurt, but obviously still alive. And they ordered them to stand up, and Hirsch was one of them, and all of them told us that his left arm from the elbow down had been blown off. That in the couple minutes where they allowed the dust to settle, he had fashioned some sort of tourniquet or bandage, and he walked out with these other 2 young men, and they were put on a pickup truck and driven off toward Gaza, and his last phone signal was at 10:25 in the morning on Saturday, October 7th. And that was all we knew until Anderson Cooper came into our lives, who I don't want to be one of those people, but I feel like we're now friends. But he's a real mensch. And he interviewed us a couple of times, and he, at the end of one interview, said, "I'm going to call you guys afterwards." And he called and said, "Have you seen any videos of your son?" And we said, "No." He said, "I have a video of Hirsch." And he sent us this video that apparently one of the terrorists was wearing sort of a head camera that must have fallen off in the scuffle. And a soldier videoed on his phone what he found on this camera. And Anderson was making a documentary about the music festival and went down to see these bomb shelters that so many of the kids were killed in. And the soldier was outside and said, "Look, this is so crazy." And on the video that Anderson sent us, you can hear Anderson Cooper saying, "Jesus Christ, he has no arm." And he realized, he said, because he had read a piece that I had written, an op-ed piece in the New York Times, and then interviewed us and put two and two together. And so the only new news that we had was it was corroborated from the eyewitnesses that we actually saw the truck, we saw the terrorists, and we saw Hirsch, and we saw the stump of his left arm. So that was new.
And thank you. And Jonathan, I saw also that as awful as it was also somewhat comforting to see, I'll let you put it in your words, that he could move on his own steam. Can you explain?
Sure. So part of this alternative universe that we're living in is everything is turned upside down. So when he was first missing, we didn't know where he was. We didn't know anything. And then I don't even remember what day it was. I think it was day 5 or 6 that we got the call that he's being officially listed as kidnapped. And in this crazy upside down world, to get notified that your child has been kidnapped by Hamas and taken into Gaza was cause to be happy. So let's start with that. And then when we saw the video that no parent should ever see of their child in the video, and we now know that for an hour and a half before the video, he was inside this bomb shelter subject to the carnage that Rachel described in the video. He walks with some degree of composure on his own 2 feet with his one arm, and he pulls himself into a truck. And so in this world where I try to look for optimism and strength anywhere I could find it, find some in the video, which is he looked composed and in shock. But from that I took some strength, and I continue to say, I hope that it's carrying him forward. That's what it was.
Moshe, can you talk about your sister and brother-in-law and your contact with them when you first heard that this was happening?
Yeah, just like everyone else who is involved in this, and probably the entire people of Israel, will feel like we're in an unusual movie, horror movie. I first heard of it when I was here in New York. It was a Friday night. I was just about to enter. I just entered a nightclub in Brooklyn, and I started reading that there was a rockets launched towards Sderot and other kibbutzim in Otef Aza, the towns and villages around the Gaza Strip. And we normalized. I grew up in Sderot, lived there most of my life, and we normalized rockets being launched at us. So I just said to myself, oh, it's just another rocket attacks. What's going to happen? It's very normal. If you say it to any other person who did not grow up in that reality, it's very abnormal. But soon after, I realized that things are very different. I got texts from friends, from my family, on the WhatsApp groups, read the news. I was in shock. Eventually, I was able to leave the club and head back. I was with my family on WhatsApp all night and with my friends all night. And at one point, I have 2 sisters. One lives in Oran Air, the other one in Nachal Oz. My parents live in Sderot. At one point, we lost contact with my sister in Nachal Oz.
That's a kibbutz.
It's a kibbutz. It's about 2.5 miles from the Gaza Strip. And at that moment, we began 8 hours of the worst kind of thoughts we could have. After 8 hours, my mother received And mind you, the entire family is still under siege, can't leave their house in the safe room. Receive a Facebook message saying that my sister and 2 baby nieces, 2-year-old and 6 months old, are alive and were rescued, but that my brother-in-law, Omri, was taken hostage, and he's now most probably in the Gaza Strip. And after that, we began processing that our life are not going to be the same anymore.
Your nieces are, can you say their ages again?
Yes, my niece Ronnie is 2 years old. My other niece Alma is 6 months old. They were all held captives for hours in Achalos, first in their house, then they were grouped with other families in another house. They all witnessed the horror, the abuse, the torture, the mockery. Ronnie was woken up with 5 Hamas terrorists pointing guns at her face. And she screams every night since then to her father, because her father used to put her to sleep. She was very close to him. They had a body lying next to them of a teenage girl of the other family with whom they were grouped for hours. And they're going to live with these sights, and I'm sure Ronnie will remember it. It's a trauma that will be with her for the rest of her life. And my sister, of course, will remember this. But we're trying to stay strong so that we'll have the hope that Omri will return to us.
I just want to mention, it's Lishay, or Lishay?
Lishai.
Lishai, your sister.
Which means my gift in Hebrew.
My gift. That she remembers the last thing that she told her husband when Hamas took him was that I love him and I'm waiting for him. Don't be a hero. We want you back.
Yeah.
Ruby, your son, can you tell us what you know?
Yeah, maybe just before that, just wanted to introduce myself. I'm a local kid, grew up in Flatbush. I'd like to say I'm the proud outcome of the New York public education system, so things could come out okay from that public education system. Still have family out here. Actually came in to see us from Long Island, so local kid. Before talking about Itai, I think maybe I'll spin it a bit. I think it'll be fitting to talk about a concept that all of us, I think, share, which is the concept of family. So, everyone here has a family. Even now, I have a new family, like, Rachel and the Goldberg family have become family the last 18 days. And within our family, so Itai has 2 brothers, one older, one younger. The younger one is called Alon. And last week, he had his bar mitzvah. So we, of course, wanted to celebrate that with our intimate family, like anyone else here would have wanted to celebrate his family ceremony. And we thought, what should we do? Like, should we postpone or should we go on with it? At the end of the day, we made the decision to go forward with the bar mitzvah. We thought that Alon should have a positive recollection of his bar mitzvah. He studied for Parashat Bereshit, new beginning, new year, so it was kind of fitting to have him, do it. And the synagogue itself, which is about half the size of this, not too shabby, but not as big as this, it was packed, more. The rabbi said it was more packed than Yom Kippur. And the energy of the people that wanted to come in, so we suddenly became, this family, on that Saturday. And there were people that came into synagogue that said to me, we haven't stepped foot in a synagogue for over a decade, but, we thought this was the moment to come in. And, it was a very spiritual event where, we took the Torah out, and everybody prayed, and there was a prayer for the soldiers missing and so forth. We believe, having people that do not come to synagogue, come in, and be in that type of participation, is towards the positive side of Itai, when, the guy upstairs, kind of says, okay, what have you done for me lately? So we feel like that hopefully gave him a little bit more of energy. And I think this event as well gives us energy as well. Like I look at the Goldbergs and, I've heard, what they tell. I don't know how you guys do it. Like I wouldn't be able to do that so many times, day after day after day. But it's you guys that actually give us the energy to go forward. We represent here over 200 families, kids, Holocaust survivors, people with special needs. And we are the voice of these people. And we have the year of the U.S. government, from President Biden, all the way down. But it's you guys, you talking to the senators, you talking to your congressmen. So we are here today, okay? But we're on a plane back, tomorrow, the next day, or the day after. But we need you to amplify the message. So we want to thank you for coming, but also remember, it's not about today. It's about the next day and the day after.
I just want, and I'm sorry my back is to some of you, we set it up in such a, I'm not responsible for the setup, but I want to just have the audience here know about Itai. He was serving on the Gaza border in the IDF. You've described him as not a very aggressive kid.
New York tough.
New York tough. Can you just give us a bit of just the sense of how you learned that he was missing?
Yeah, so he was at a base near Nachal Oz, where Moshe's family is. It's important to note, so we're not going too much into politics, but he was protecting a sovereign part of Israel that is not in some sort of international dispute. They were not attackers, they were not looking for trouble. And they were, basically it was a Saturday, it was a holiday, there wasn't that much happening, and they were attacked. And within that attack, the last that we heard from him was 6 a.m., where he said that the base is under attack. They became mobilized, him and his team, and the last that we know that he was active in the field was 9 a.m. At the beginning, he was defined missing in action, which means nobody since saw him, physically could say, I see him in front of me. He was not in one of the hospitals and not in one of the morgues in the deceased lists. And as Jonathan described, about 5 days ago, we got the message from the IDF came into our house. That knock on the door, I don't know how to describe it, at 6 a.m. in the morning, nobody wants to get that knock on the door. But when they did come in and knock, they notified officially that he's defined as hostage, Gaza. So like Jonathan said, so that's the good scenario for us at the moment.
Rachel and Jonathan, again, I am ambivalent to ask you this, but I hope you can feel that everyone in this room and millions beyond us are holding you and thinking about you and your families, all of your families every day. And if there's something you would like us to all know about our networks, the people who might listen to us if we send them something, I think Ruby's made it clear that the first thing is not to forget, because this could be a long road. But maybe Jonathan, you start with just what you want the people listening to do or think about.
So I wish I had a good answer for that, because we have been hearing from people from all over the world, literally, and friends that we haven't seen in 40 years, people we don't know, all asking what they could do. And I would love to have more of an answer to that. The only two things I have so far have both been said. Number one is, this is a big story right now, even though we're on day 18. It might drag on to day 20 and 25 and 30, and there's going to be other news stories. We need people to keep this front and center. It has to stay in the news. It has to have people talking about it, sharing it on social media, etc. And the second thing is it helps to call your elected officials every single day. We're on day 18 right now, and I won't ask it in this room, although I did ask it in a meeting earlier. I doubt there are people in this room who have made 5 phone calls. Certainly, I doubt there's anybody who's made 10 phone calls. And I'm sure there's nobody who's made 18 phone calls every single day. That is what we need. We have been told repeatedly by elected officials that the way to stay in their minds is have people reaching out to them, constituents calling and writing non-stop. And that is what I would ask people in this room to do.
I just want to add to that because we were talking about it before at UJA, that it can also not be this complicated, annoying thing that you have to do. It really can be 1 minute every morning, like while you're boiling the water for your coffee ritual, that you just dial that number and you say, it's day 19 and Hirsch and Itai still aren't home. I forgot your brother-in-law's name. But do you know what I'm saying? And that's it. Have a nice day. I hope when I call tomorrow I have better news. And the next day, right? And so it's 1 minute, but it's 1 minute from all of you. And they will know that every morning they're getting a call. And so it doesn't go away, and I think it's not that horrible of an ask of people to do. And you can feel good about, okay, I made my call, and now, I did something little. It's a drop in the bucket. Until we figure out what's the next move, what's the next ask. But for now, it's that little mosquito that when you're trying to sleep, you're like, shoot, that's so annoying. We want you to be that mosquito that senator or your representative or your mayor, or although your mayor's great and your governor's great, so I think they're kind of on the case, but just...
No, I think it's compelling because sometimes we think it's a black hole and it's kind of pro forma, and you're saying that the actual, in our numbers and multitudes, it will make a difference. I think you're absolutely right. Go ahead,
If I could
John.
just add to that.
Yeah.
So we've been in this alternative universe where we've been finding ourselves having conversations about what we could do, back channeling to certain countries, like Qatar comes up repeatedly. And I was in meetings today that I never thought I would be in with ambassadors from countries I never thought I would sit with. But all arrows point to, even if it's going to be those players having influence, it's going to come from the United States government. That is who's going to influence how these things play out. And so it just exacerbates the importance of stay on United States elected officials.
Thank you. Moshe, I'm sure it's extremely not just painful but infuriating to watch some of the news reports that have people doubting the veracity of these attacks. I think UJA, I don't have to say it, and Eric Goldstein's leadership and his team have been incredible in making sure the truth is heard. But what is your response to any kind of momentum on questioning whether these things have actually happened, these atrocities, these things that your family witnessed are actually true?
I think, again, it comes back to the discourse of calling elected officials, speaking continuously in your communities about what has happened on October 7th, being courageous enough and brave enough to face those doubting voices, whether it's on campus, which is sadly... I just graduated from an MBA program in May, and I can't imagine being on UPenn campus now, after seeing and hearing from friends what is going on there. Need to be brave there, need to be brave on the streets when you see people taking posters, ripping them apart. Need to be brave on social media and call out. And make sure those who make statements, and there is free speech, you can make any statement you want, but make sure that they face the consequences of making those statements, of denying that something has happened on that Black Day, Black Saturday. This is all I can say. This is what I've been doing since then. and I know it's hard, but it's all we can do to support the people of Israel, our people, and it's important that it's done here. I'm Israeli, I'm not American, and it's important that the discourse here remains in favor of Israel, because otherwise Israel will lose its most important ally in the world.
Thank you. Ruby?
Yeah, I also wanted to speak out and talk about the narrative. So the other side is trying to turn the narrative into something else than what it is, which is crimes against humanity, similar to what we witnessed in the Holocaust 80 years ago. So the other side is turning this into something against the Palestinian people. No, it's not against the Palestinian people. I got Palestinian buddies. Like, I'm not against Palestinians. It's not us against Islam. Like, Islam does not talk about, beheading, kids. They do not talk about raping women. I'm sure if we would have gotten here Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, any other prominent Islamic figure, I'm sure he would say, this is not Islam. Okay, this is about Hamas, which is the new ISIS. And the international community, led by the United States, needs to deal with Hamas, ISIS, the same way that the international community dealt with it about a decade ago. You need to take it out. Okay, you need to take it out altogether. If not, it'll be next month, next year, in your backyard. So that is the narrative. Don't let them change the narrative. Today we were at the UN. I have to say it was highly disturbing. I thought we would be listening to the council talking about crimes against humanity and about the hostages, but instead it was a discussion about the Palestinian issue. Yes, the Palestinian issue is a topic, but it's not today's topic, okay?
I want to make sure we have just 10 minutes, and I want to let you go, and I know you both particularly have to move on. When Gilad Shalit was held, it was one person. We focused on him for so long, and now it's maybe 222 is the number I've seen. I just want to make sure everyone here knows who your son is, and to just give you each just a moment, a few minutes, to tell us, so we just have a sense of the person we're calling, on whose behalf we're going to be calling, and being the mosquito you're asking us to be.
So, I've gotten this question a lot, and I just said when we were at UJA, I don't really know any Jewish moms who say, oh, my son, he's okay. I'm like, he's great. Hirsch is a super curious, very smart, laid back, voraciously well-read, soccer-loving guy who has a lot of friends. He has a very sweet side. He's super respectful. We've had a lot of time to talk about Hirsch to each other. I've never heard him raise his voice, which I think is normal for kids at certain points when they grow up, you hear them raise their voice. But he doesn't have a temper. He's always had wanderlust. He's had this dream of traveling the world since he had this wonderful teacher in kindergarten who lit a fire for all of the children in the class to learn about different countries and different places. And for each birthday, he'd ask for a different map or an atlas or a globe. And he has a ticket for December 27th to leave to go to India for, he said, at least a year, maybe two, to all points east. And it's interesting, I didn't even internalize this, but I just saw that someone had taken a picture in his room. He has next to his bed, with the bookmark still in it, the Dalai Lama book of how to find happiness. And that's Hirsch. So it will be, God willing, really nice when he comes home and he comes here. with Itai and with your brother-in-law to meet all of you. And you don't need 2 arms to go to India. So we're just hoping.
Did you want to add anything?
So I don't have a lot to add to that. It's all true. He's a really fun, great guy. The only thing I'll say is, and I've been saying this the last couple of days, is I thought about this question. He turned 23 just before this music festival. He was kind of celebrating his birthday there. And I truly can say that never once in 23 years did he really upset me. All of our kids do things to upset us. We have 2 girls who are great, but they sometimes do things to upset me. In 23 years, I can never remember a moment where I was actually mad at him. He's just super respectful, and he was never an angel. His teachers would never describe him as a perfect angel. But even within his mischievous side, he never upsets people.
Thank you. Moshe, can you tell us about Omri?
Yeah. And when Erish comes back, I can talk to him about the East, because I traveled there for a long time. So looking forward to that conversation. Omri entered our life in March 2020, when the world stood still because of the COVID-19 pandemic. He entered my sister's life then, and she fell in love, and we gradually fell in love as well. He's a very gentle man. He always was able to speak so softly. I was kind of jealous of that at times. But also, when he needed to be passionate and wanted to express his passion, suddenly that passion will come out expressively. He was a great shiatsu therapist, and it was the love. His profession was something he adored. He was working also as a gardener in the kibbutz in Nachal Oz. He was very connected to plants and to nature. And he could speak for hours about his spiritual connection with the natural world. The Japanese author Haruki Murakami was his favorite author. He had all his books. He has all his books in the library, which was sadly destroyed with most of the house. But we'll make sure he'll get those books again. And he adored sports as well. He loved basketball especially. We both supported the same Israeli team, Maccabi Tel Aviv, and would speak about that, about their games on a weekly basis when I was in Israel. Yeah, that's Omri, and I can't wait to meet him again.
Thank you. Ruby?
Yeah, so Itai, as I said, is the middle, the sandwich. So his position in the family is to be the connector, the glue between his 2 brothers. So, that is something that is definitely missed. As a kid, like any dad, he's also a very avid basketball player. So at the beginning, as a dad, you always give in, you let him win. But, it was at a pretty early age, like he played professional basketball with teams. And suddenly, he was giving me a fight. And he didn't let down. Like, he kept on going and going until he whooped my ass. And, I had to give in and say, no, you actually are beating me. And he would play against, bigger kids. Taller, bigger, and he was able to stand against them and, play. So I hope to think, part of that DNA that we call, New York tough, hopefully he has that inside of him as well, that when he had that moment that he needed to find a way to survive that hell that he was in, hopefully he was able to find that inner strength to pass, the initial inferno that he was at. And like, Jonathan said, the good case scenario for us is that he's indeed hostage, and we have the support of the international community and the U.S. Hopefully, they are doing everything they can to get them home as soon as possible.
So before my Rabbi Angela Buchtal comes to help us close this, I want to end with, Moshe, your words. You said, I always thought, I wonder how the other families of those who lost a loved one in wars, either held captive or lost their lives, feel. And during this time, I've processed that I'm now part of that. I want to say that you are not alone. That sounds like a platitude, but I cannot tell you how sincerely we all feel it. And we are here for you, and we will be your support and soldiers whenever you need us. Thank you for your courage to have to replay this all again. Thank you.
I just want to offer our gratitude again for your courage and your strength to share these stories. We just remain standing. We're going to close with just a prayer and 2 songs. If I could have any clergy that are in the room to join me, please. Also, Eric Goldstein on the bima with us, and representatives from our partners, the Jewish Agency, JCRC, the New York Board of Rabbis, AJC, and the Hostage Families Forum, including Esther Sperber, I hope. Erica Brown, if you'll join us as like a clergy for us as well, please join us. And we're just going to close with a prayer together. I want our families to know that we have this empty chair that is on our bima always since October 7th, and the flag and that empty chair represents all the hostages who are not here, and that will remain with a flag on it and an empty chair until they're all home. And we want to offer our prayer with you for the captives. If you can put it on, and please join with me in English. Oh, it's the one right before, please. And I don't want to be here by myself. I actually would love for you to come up here with us, please. Is there a prayer before? There should be, but okay. Okay, actually, it's on that. Are those papers right there for? Nope. Okay, well, let's join in singing Achenu then. Achenu kol beit Yisrael, Achenu kol beit Yisrael, hanetunim betzara, betzara uvashivya, haomdim ben bayam uven bayabasha. Hamakom yirachem, yirachem alehem, v'yotziim mitzara livacha, ume'afela leora, umishirbu legula, hashta bagala uvizman kariv, hashta bagala uvizman kariv. Kol od balevav penima, nefesh Yehudi homiya, ulfatei mizrach kadima, ayin letzion Sophia. Od lo avda tikvatenu, hatikva bat shnot alpayim, liot am chofshi be'atzenu, nafshi be'artzeinu eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim. May we go forward and act and continue to remember. We will never forget. Erev Tov, thank you for being here tonight.